Years later, a heartwarming twist revealed the incredible transformation of the maid abandoned by society. Laura stood outside the Thompson family's colossal mansion, fingers trembling at the sight of the marble steps and perfectly manicured hedges. It was one of those idyllic California days, palm trees swaying and the sun beaming down as if the universe wanted to remind her that hope existed. But for Laura, those bright days felt heavy with responsibility. After all, she was a single mother working as a maid, all so that her 8-year-old son Danny could have a brighter future. Every morning, she slipped on her crisp uniform and donned a smile, even when every corner of her heart cried out for more than just survival. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open and entered the gilded world of luxury, cleaning the remnants of privilege left by those who barely knew her name. As she polished the exquisite chandelier, she filled her mind with dreams where Danny wouldn't have to feel ashamed of his mother's hard work but would instead feel proud of her relentless fight against their circumstances. That dream cracked the day Danny came home red-eyed and devastated. "Mommy," he whispered, tears spilling over like the waves of the nearby Pacific. "They said you're just a maid." Each word struck Laura like a blow to the gut. The bitter sting of their classmates' taunts was inescapable. She knelt to Danny's level, brushing a tear away with her thumb. "You're so much more than what they see," she insisted, though doubt filled her own heart. "You are brave, and kindness is the best armor we have." But how could she shelter him when she herself was struggling to rise above the weight of judgment? Surrounded by supportive neighbors, a community of hard-working souls whose smiles struck chords of solidarity, Laura began to grasp that she wasn't entirely alone. They rallied around her, sharing stories of grit and resilience. Before she could gather her thoughts, catastrophe struck. A sudden plumbing disaster hit the Thompson household. Laura rushed over, her heart pounding like the rushing water that poured onto the elegant tiles. As Mrs. Thompson fretted in a frenzy, Laura's eyes gleamed with determination. The sight of the chaos stirred something deep within her. Every wrench she tightened and every leak she mended was not just a physical fix, it was her chance to showcase her worth. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Laura navigated the mess, she overheard whispered conversations that would forever alter her perception of the Thompsons. Their wealth was not just a privilege but a gilded cage, hiding secrets and insecurities. Heart racing, she realized that perhaps the American dream they all chased was less about money and more about the human connection and understanding they desperately lacked. In the midst of this turmoil, Danny began to rise, embracing strength and confidence amidst the chaos of his mother's resolve. With every passing moment, the invisible barriers of class began to blur. Could it be that loyalty, dignity, and respect were what truly defined them beyond the gilded gates of wealth? As their lives collided within the echoes of laughter and tears, it became clear that change was brewing. However, lurking in the shadows was an unsettling truth, one that had the power to overturn their world. What did Laura truly know about the Thompsons? And more importantly, would she finally claim her place in this realm where she'd always been seen as merely a maid? The warmth of camaraderie hung in the air as they faced the unfurling story of their lives, testing the very limits of their understanding and connection. Laura wiped her brow as she stepped back from the flooded kitchen, surveying the chaos around her. She could still hear Mrs. Thompson's anxious voice rising above the splashes of water. It was a strange moment, a collision of worlds where she, the maid, held the reins of the situation. The sense of empowerment coursed through her veins, filling the void of doubt that had plagued her for what felt like an eternity. "Thank you, Laura. I don't know what we would have done without you," Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, her voice laced with genuine gratitude. Her expression softened, shedding the aloof demeanor Laura had always associated with her. For a fleeting moment, they were just two women navigating a crisis together. "Just doing what I can," Laura replied, her heart swelling with something akin to pride. As the water receded and the last fix was made, Laura felt the tiny flicker of possibility ignite within her. This wasn't just about mopping floors or scrubbing dishes anymore. No, this was about proving to herself and her son that she could be more than her circumstances. Later that evening, she gathered her son, sitting him down on their little couch that creaked under their weight. "Danny," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I know today was hard, but I need you to understand something important." His blue eyes wide with curiosity, he leaned in closer. "What is it, Mommy?" he asked, the innocence in his voice tugging at her heart. "You are never defined by what others say about you. Just like how I'm seen as just a maid, remember that our worth is in what we achieve and who we are inside." Danny held her gaze, his small chin lifting defiantly. "I want to be brave like you, Mom," he said, a resolute tone threading through his words. Laura smiled, a genuine warmth spreading through her chest. They shared a moment of silent understanding, two warriors against the world's perceptions. But the following days were not without their challenges. Gossip around the Thompson household began to swirl, and Laura felt the weight of the rumors like a storm cloud looming overhead. Mrs. Thompson's children, particularly the oldest, Michael, often snickered at her presence, trying to belittle her efforts. "What do you know about fixing things?" he had scoffed one afternoon, as Laura bent to pick up a fallen stack of dishes. Each snide remark threw her off balance, every time leaving her questioning her place among them. Yet the victories were sweet too. One day, after a long shift, she found Danny standing at their front door, his face smeared with dirt but eyes shining bright. "Mom! You should have seen it. I scored the winning goal!" he exclaimed, his energy infectious. Laura's heart swelled at his excitement, the pride radiating from him like sunlight piercing the dawn. In that moment, it hit her. This wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. She envisioned a future where Danny could stand tall among his peers, where he'd never feel ashamed of where he'd come from. She could write their own story, one where love conquered disdain, where ambition stood against adversity, but just as the horizon seemed to light up, an unexpected storm loomed close. Laura received a call that shattered her fragile sense of security. The truth about her past, the secrets she had kept hidden from everyone, especially Danny, was about to come to light. How would he react? Would this revelation change everything they had fought so hard to build? The ringing phone echoed ominously in her hand, the weight of it heavier than she ever imagined. What would happen now that the past was clawing its way back into their lives? As she braced herself for the storm ahead, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that the battle had only just begun. Laura stared at the phone, its screen glowing ominously in the dim light of their cramped living room. Her breath caught in her chest, and a swirl of emotions churned within her. She had fought against her past for so long, kept it tucked away like a secret too painful to share. But as she hesitated, she could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on her, demanding to be acknowledged. "Mommy? Are we okay?" Danny's small voice broke through her thoughts, filled with concern. His innocent gaze made Laura's heart ache. She forced a smile, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "Of course, sweetheart. Just a little unexpected news," she replied, the words feeling hollow. Without thinking, she pressed the green button and brought the phone to her ear. "Hello? Laura, it's been a long time," came a voice that sent a chill down her spine. It was David, the father she had thought she could forget. Their history played like a ghost in her mind, a reminder of everything that had gone wrong. "We need to talk." Panic surged through her. How could she explain this to Danny? Just when she thought they were building something beautiful, the shadows of her past threatened to unravel everything. "About what?" she managed to ask, her voice tremulous, praying for the strength to keep herself together. "About Danny," he said softly. "He deserves to know who I am, who we are." Laura's heart raced. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about her son, the boy who looked up to her as his only anchor in the tumultuous sea they called life. "Danny doesn't need you," she replied fiercely, her resolve hardening. "He has me. I've been everything he needs." There was silence on the other end, an unsettling quiet that amplified the chaos in her mind. "You can't deny his right to know his father," David responded, his tone measured but firm. "He has a family that wants to meet him, Laura. You can't keep this from him any longer." She wanted to scream, to unleash every fear she had kept buried. But the calmness in David's voice began to crack the walls she had built. She needed to protect Danny, But how could she do that if the truth loomed over them like a dark cloud? As she processed his words, a new realization washed over her. If Danny knew, it could change everything. She felt the urge to shield him from the world and its hurtful truths, but she also knew the importance of honesty. Maybe you're right, she whispered, her chest tightening. But how do I tell him? Start with truth, Laura. Kids can handle more than we think if we give them a chance to understand. He is stronger than you realize, David urged. Laura could feel the tears prickling at her eyes. In the quiet of her living room, she realized she could no longer hide, not from Danny, not from herself. She knew this would be a heavy conversation, but it was one she needed to have. When she finally hung up, her heart was racing. Would Danny see David as a long-lost hero, or would he feel betrayed for something she kept from him? The very thought gnawed at her insides. She found Danny sitting at the kitchen table, doodling in his notebook, the sunlight catching his tousled hair. He looked so innocent, so blissfully unaware of the storm about to hit. "Mom? Are you okay?" he asked, concern lacing his voice again. "Danny, we need to talk," Laura said softly, her heart pounding like a drum. But as she prepared to dive into the conversation, a new wave of uncertainty flooded her thoughts. How would he respond? Would he forgive her for keeping this part of their story a secret? As she took a deep breath, she realized one simple truth: their lives were about to change forever. But what she didn't expect was how this confrontation would not only test their bond but also set them on a path to discovering who they truly were as a family. Danny looked up from his doodles, his eyes wide and searching. There was a seriousness in Laura's tone that made him sit up a little straighter, the crayon hovering above the page, forgotten. "Mom? Is it about Dad?" he asked quietly. Laura's heart broke a little at the innocent question. In his young mind, he had built a version of his father, one that filled the empty spaces of his childhood. "Yes, it is," she hesitated. The moment felt monumental, like standing on the edge of a cliff. "Is he coming back?" Danny's enthusiasm was palpable, but it was tinged with uncertainty. Laura's chest twisted, grappling with the reality she had to face. "Danny, sweetheart. It's more complicated than that." She raked her fingers through her hair, searching for the right words. "This wasn't a fairy tale, this was their life. He called me today," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "He wants to meet you." The brightness in Danny's eyes dimmed for a flicker of a second, replaced by confusion. "But I thought he didn't want to see us." "I thought so too." The weight of every decision she had made pressed down on her. "But he wants you to know him." Silence settled between them, heavy like fog creeping in. Danny's small fingers clenched around the crayon, his gaze shifting to the table. It was as if he were peeling back layers of hurt, trying to understand what it all meant. "But do I have to meet him?" His voice wobbled, a mixture of fear and longing swirling together. This was it, the moment Laura had dreaded but knew had to come. "You don't have to do anything. It's your choice. But I want you to hear it from me first before anyone else gets the chance." Her heart pounded, the words spilling out in a rush. "Your dad made mistakes. I made mistakes too. But you deserve to know both sides of your story. You're so brave, Danny. And I promise I'll be here no matter what you choose." Danny's face transformed, his confusion morphing into a soft resolve. "Can we talk about it more?" he asked, his little voice steadying. "Of course." Relief washed over Laura. She reached out and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "We can talk about whatever you need. I'm right here." Time seemed to stretch as they sat there, fingers intertwined, the sun casting warm hues around them. It was a moment of connection, a bridge forged over the uncertain waters of their shared existence. "Will he love me?" Danny's question was so sincere, it cracked something deep within Laura. A mother's instinct kicked in, and she wanted to shield him from vulnerability, yet something in her recognized that this was part of growing up. "That is hard to say, but he should love you, Danny. You're wonderful just as you are." Danny nodded slowly, contemplating her words. For a moment, hope shattered through his clouds of doubts. "What if I don't like him?" Then you don't have to see him again, Laura promised, her eyes locking onto his. But you'll never know unless you try, right? In that instant, the room felt lighter. They were stepping into the unknown together. The bond they had forged over years would help them navigate this new tide. As they sat there, communicating without words, Laura realized she had shown Danny the value of honesty and choice. That truth was an anchor, grounding them both. I think I want to meet him, Danny finally said, his voice barely above a whisper, but filled with determination. Tears prickled at the edges of Laura's vision, a mix of pride and sorrow. Whenever you feel ready, we'll take that step together. Just then, the phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, breaking the moment. Laura's heart raced as she glanced at the screen, knowing who it was. It's your dad, she said, the weight of her decision settling heavily on her chest. Do you want to answer? Danny asked, his small frame vibrating with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Laura hesitated, then nodded, her heart a whirlwind of emotions. Yes. Let us do this. The moment of truth hung in the air, and they both felt it stirring inside them, a new chapter waiting to be written, a new path to walk down. But would that path be a bridge to healing, or would it turn into another painful chapter in their lives? Laura felt her breath hitch as she pressed the green button, unsure what would greet her on the other end of the line. The voice of the man she once loved, her partner, her collaborator, sounded slightly altered, as if age had added gravel to it, or maybe it was just the distance they had created that made him different. Hello? Came the slightly hesitant reply, tinged with an eagerness that contrasted sharply with Laura's own anxiety. Hey, it's me, she said, her words spilling out awkwardly, like something precious and fragile. Laura, he breathed, and for a moment, they shared a silence that felt heavy with years and unspoken regrets, layered in memories of laughter and dreams long faded. What do you want? She asked, the question falling out like a challenge, pushing through the thick fog of what had been. I want to see Danny, he said, his voice both vulnerable and resolute. I want to make things right. Danny watched his mother intently, trying to decipher the emotions flickering across her face. Laura felt a rush of emotions: anger, sadness, but most of all, an unexpected flicker of hope. Hope that maybe this was the turning point, the breakthrough she had waited for his father to embrace. Before we decide on anything, she said, trying to sound firm. There's a lot Danny needs to know. A lot we need to discuss. Are you ready for that? His silence was the slow response of a man coming to terms with his own imperfections. I am. I promise. I understand if it's hard for you to believe, but I want to try. Laura's heart clenched painfully, torn between what was right and what was safe. She could feel Danny's little hand wrapping around her wrist, his eyes searching for assurance. Mom? He whispered, breaking through the wave of emotions. Is Daddy excited to see me? She met Danny's gaze, the innocence of his question pulling her back from the precipice of doubt. He says he is, sweetheart. She gauged her words carefully, balancing the hopeful tone for Danny with the reality that was still looming in her mind. I want to meet him, Danny said, his small voice steady, laced with that determination she had admired just moments before. The weight of this decision surged through her, heavy yet strangely freeing. Okay, let us set a time, Laura murmured, the tears threatening to spill again. But I want you to promise me something. We will not rush into anything. We will take it at your pace, and if this feels wrong at any moment, we won't go through with it. Deal, came his reply, a bit more confident this time. Once the call ended, Laura felt as if a dam had burst within her. Are you sure, Danny? She asked, her voice wavering. This isn't just about meeting him, it's about everything that comes with it. There are no guarantees here. I want to know him, Mom, Danny said simply, his expression unwavering, that fierce resolve returning. Just like you told me I won't know unless I try. Suddenly, the air felt electric, charged with the potential for change. What if he hurts you again? Laura asked, the concern clear in her voice. Danny looked up at her, his small frame radiating an unexpected strength. I guess we'll figure that out together. Laura's heart swelled at his maturity, but with it came the fear of the unknown they were about to step into. I love you, Danny, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks as she pulled him into a tight embrace. "I love you too, Mom," he replied, hugging her back with all his might, as if they were warding off the fears lurking just beyond their door. Just then, the clock on the wall ticked loudly, a reminder that time was moving forward, that difficulties and solutions were entwined, and that they had a decision to face. Would meeting his father weave a tapestry of healing for their torn family? Or would it unravel the fragile foundation they had built through the years? The thought lingered in her mind as they sat there together, hearts beating in sync, unsure of what the future held. But one thing was for certain: the next chapter of their lives was about to unfold, and they were both ready to brave it. Together. But what if the reunion held more secrets than they ever anticipated? As the days passed, the weight of anticipation settled heavily on Laura's shoulders. She kept glancing at the calendar, counting down to the meeting. Each day felt like a tug-of-war between hope and trepidation. Danny was buzzing with excitement, even bringing up his father at the most unexpected moments. It was as if a light had ignited in him, a glow that made Laura smile but also kept her anxiety churning. "Do you think he'll bring me a present?" Danny asked one evening, out of the blue. They were sitting on the floor of the living room, coloring. Laura chuckled softly, trying to mask the lump forming in her throat. "I don't know, sweetie. What would you like him to bring?" "A robot." Danny's eyes sparkled. "Or maybe a superhero cape." "That would be awesome." "Yeah, that would be pretty cool," she replied, her heart aching with both nostalgia and worry. She wanted her son to have the fairy tale he envisioned, but she also knew how fragile their reality was. The night before the meeting, Laura lay awake, staring at the shadows dancing on the wall. Memories of happier times flooded her mind, voices mingling with laughter. Just a little spark of time, a lifetime ago. She thought of her partner and the dreams they shared, dreams now weathered by time and choices. Suddenly, a wave of doubt crashed over her. What if the man on the other side of the phone wasn't the man she had once loved? "We'll take it slow," she reminded herself, her inner voice a soft anchor in the storm of her thoughts. Glancing over at Danny, who was blissfully unaware of the complexities swirling around them, she took a breath. He was here with her, and despite the uncertainty, they were a team. Finally, the morning of the meeting arrived. The streets were cloaked in mist, the kind that felt thick with secrets yet to be uncovered. Danny dressed eagerly, fussing over his clothes, wanting to look just right for his father. Laura had chosen a simple top, hoping to strike a balance between casual and ready for the unknown. "You look amazing, Mom," Danny exclaimed, bouncing on his toes. Her heart lifted and sank in tandem at his compliment. "Thanks, buddy," she replied, ruffling his hair. They set off to the cafe where they agreed to meet. It was a spot filled with warmth and laughter, a stark contrast to the tension building within her. Upon entering, Laura's breath caught in her throat as she spotted him, sitting at a corner table. He looked older, perhaps more worn by life, but there was something undeniably familiar about him. "Mom?" Danny tugged at her sleeve, bringing her back to the moment. There was no turning back now. The air between them felt charged, pulsing with years of unresolved emotion. As they approached, she caught the flash of recognition in his eyes. It was a mix of joy and trepidation, an echo of what had once been. "Danny," he said, his voice shaking slightly, filled with a hesitant urgency. "You've grown so much." "Hi, Dad," Danny replied, a shy smile curling on his lips. Laura held her breath, watching the interaction unfold like a delicate thread, woven with hope and uncertainty. This was just the beginning, a first step. But would it lead to healing or heartbreak? In that moment, she realized that the reunion held more than just the chance for a father and son to reconnect. It brimmed with the possibility of Laura finding her own closure, of rediscovering herself in the midst of this fractured family. Just as she was about to take a seat, a woman walked in, her presence enveloping the cafe. Laura felt a shiver run down her spine as the woman made her way toward the table, weaving into the poignant moment unfolding before them. What new twist was about to reveal itself? As the woman approached, time seemed to slow. Laura's heart raced, uncertainty flooding her veins. She recognized the stranger immediately, her breath hitching in her throat. It was Michelle, a woman with a bright smile and an undeniable charm from their past, a friend who once shared laughs over coffee and whispered secrets during sleepless nights. "Robert?" Michelle's voice chirped, light and joyful, taking yet another step closer. I can't believe it's you. She moved in for a quick hug, and Laura instinctively held her breath, half of her wanting to welcome her into this newfound moment, the other half clenching with confusion and unease. Caught off guard, Robert hesitated before leaning into the embrace. Michelle. It's been a long time, he stammered, a gap of years hanging heavily in the air. Danny stood at Laura's side, wide-eyed, unsure of how to process this sudden twist. His father's gaze flickered between Laura and Michelle, a mix of emotions swirling in those familiar brown eyes. Oh, this feels like a reunion of sorts, Michelle exclaimed, seemingly unfazed by the tension. She beamed at Danny, crouching to his level. And look at you. Such a handsome little guy. I heard so much about you. So proud of your dad for coming back. A lump formed in Laura's throat at those words. Proud? This was the same man who had stepped away from their lives without looking back. She could feel anger bubbling, threatening to surface. And yet, the academic part of her brain reminded her that human emotions could be complicated, much like life itself. Thanks, Danny replied, glancing up at his mother, sensing her unease. Laura. How have you been? Michelle chirped, her bright eyes shining with genuine concern. I heard what happened, and I wanted to check in. I'm so glad you're all here together today. Laura managed a tight smile. Yeah, well, it's a big day for Danny, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. We're reconnecting. Reconnecting is good. Families should be together, Michelle said with a knowing nod, her tone almost optimistic. After everything, it's never too late, you know? As emotions swirled and the air thickened around them, Michelle turned to Robert, her smile still radiant. What do you think? A fresh start? A new beginning? Instead of answering, Robert simply nodded, his expression shifting from happiness to a more reflective look, and for a moment, Laura caught a glimpse of the man he once was, the man he could possibly be again. But Laura's heart held back, still reeling from the emotions of their shattered past. She could feel the weight of decision in her chest. Could she really allow them the chance to reconnect, to heal? Distracted by the conversation, Laura caught Danny looking up at Robert, his small hand ringing nervously, clearly at a crossroads between hope and uncertainty. Can I show you something? Danny piped up suddenly, breaking the tension. He stood, filled with his youthful enthusiasm, oblivious to the complicated history swirling around him. I've been working on a drawing for you, Dad. It's a superhero. Laura's heart twisted at the sight of her son reaching out, wanting to bridge the gap, to jump into the narrative of father and son as though their past didn't exist. As Danny led them back to the corner where they had settled, Laura's mind raced. What was she willing to risk for her son's happiness? The moments felt suspended, thick with possibilities, and just as Danny unveiled his masterpiece, a voice rose from the cafe, heated and loud, echoing in a way that made heads turn. Robert! There you are! I've been looking for you! The room fell silent, all eyes shifting to a familiar figure, standing tall and fierce at the entrance. What voice from the past had now entered the room with such authority? And how would it affect the fragile moment hovering between hope and uncertainty? The moment hung in the air, heavy with fear and curiosity. Laura turned, heart racing, as the figure strode into the cafe. It was Jessica, someone she had hoped to never see again. Jess had been close to Robert once, a part of their life that Laura had tried to forget, an echo of betrayal that still stung. Jess! Robert exclaimed, shock sliding across his face. What are you doing here? Laura could see the way Jessica's eyes darted between him and Michelle, a flicker of disbelief crossing her features. She was an imposing woman, with a sharp jaw and an intense gaze that could pin anyone in their place. Today, she wore a red dress that matched the urgency of her voice, a statement entry that sent chills through the cafe. I've been trying to reach you, Jessica insisted, her voice steady. This doesn't make sense, any of it. She pointedly stared at Michelle, who had been embracing the moment with enthusiasm just moments earlier. You didn't think you could just disappear, did you? That you could just pop back into their lives like everything is fine? Laura's heart fisted. The tension in the air thickened as if everyone inside was holding its breath, waiting for the future to unfold.
Her gaze flicked toward Danny, whose innocent excitement had crumpled, replaced by confusion. What was he thinking? Could he truly understand the world adults had built around him, filled with unspoken words and heavy silences? "Mom, who's that?" Danny asked, eyes searching Laura's face for clues. Laura knelt beside him. "It's complicated," she murmured, squeezing his hand. She didn't want him caught in the storm. He deserved laughter, not a tangled history. "Maybe you should explain it all now that you're here," Michelle suggested, a nervous edge creeping into her voice. "We should talk. It's important." From across the cafe, Laura could see people whispering, their eyes flitting between the gathering of old friends and the suddenly tense atmosphere. She hated feeling exposed, but the intensity of the moment pushed her to stand tall. "Jess, can we please have a civil conversation without making this a bigger scene than it needs to be?" Robert said, his voice low but firm. Jessica crossed her arms, defiance dancing in her stance, but Laura detected the flicker of vulnerability hiding beneath that fierce exterior. "You think this is about you?" she said, her voice rising. "This is about Danny. You guys are playing house, but we both know what's really going on." Laura bristled, anger warming her cheeks. She wanted to shout, to remind Jess that her opinions didn't matter anymore. "No, it's about Danny," she countered, rising to her feet. "He shouldn't have to deal with this chaos. Not today. He deserves this day to be special." Jessica's eyes narrowed, but something softened in her posture as she met Danny's wide, questioning gaze. The boy stood there, innocent and yearning for affirmation from both worlds he barely grasped. "Danny, the truth is life is messy," Laura said softly, kneeling once more. "And sometimes, people make choices that hurt others. But today, we're here for you, okay? That's what matters." In that moment, Laura hoped to shield him from the tempest forming around them. But as she watched Jess and Robert exchange glances, some unspoken language passing silently between them, she felt the knot in her stomach tighten. Just as the tension reached its peak, Robert's phone buzzed loudly in his pocket, cutting through the air like a knife. He fumbled for it, glancing at the screen, confusion spreading over his features. "This is weird," he muttered, then answered, "Hello?" Around them, the cafe buzzed, but Laura could only focus on Danny, who was shuffling back and forth, his small figure caught in the epicenter of their histories. The conversation on the other end shifted from casual to urgent, Robert's face paling. "I'll be right there," he ended the call and turned back to them, mouth opening to explain. "Guys, something just came up. I have to go." Before Laura could process his departure, she caught the concerned look on Danny's face. "Dad, no." As Robert stepped back, uncertainty tightened its grip around them like a vice. What had his urgent call meant? Would he leave again before they even had a chance to figure things out? As the door swung shut behind him, the shadows grew longer and Laura's hope hung in the balance, an unanswered question lingering in the air. What choice would Robert make in that moment, and would his departure drive an even deeper wedge in the fragile family they were trying to knit back together? The cafe became a stillness, an awkward pause where time felt warped. Laura's heart raced as she turned to Danny, who was searching her face, his innocent blue eyes wide with confusion. She felt the weight of disappointment settling over the table, like a blanket that stifled any remaining laughter from Danny's special day. "Why did he leave? Is everything okay?" he asked, his small voice barely above a whisper. Laura's throat tightened. She wished she could shield him from this truth that grown-ups didn't always have answers, didn't always make the right choices. "He just got a call. I'm sure he'll be back soon," she lied, wanting desperately to soothe his fears, yet knowing the truth was scarier than any fiction they could conjure. A collective hush had fallen over the cafe, patrons still glancing over, their eyes shifting like leaves in the wind. Michelle, standing awkwardly to one side, finally took a step closer. "Maybe I should go after him," she said hesitantly. "If he's needed somewhere." Laura shot her a glance. "No, let us not complicate things further." She squeezed Danny's hand tighter, as if through sheer force she could hold their world together. But Jess stepped forward, arms still crossed, face tight with a mix of concern and something else. Was it sympathy? "Look," she began, her tone softer. "I didn't come here just to stir up trouble. I care about Danny. I care about all of you.
Laura could hardly contain a scoff, but Jess's pleading expression caught her off guard. The two women had been on opposite sides of a bitter divide for too long.
Do you really?
Laura challenged, feeling a wave of protective anger rise within her.
Danny looked between the two of them. Can we just stay here? I don't want anyone to go.
His voice broke the tension. Laura knelt again, this time drawing him in for a hug.
Sweetheart, I promise we're going to figure this out.
I'll make sure you're okay, whatever happens.
But Jess's voice, now soft yet firm, interrupted. The truth is families are complicated.
But Danny deserves to know what's real, not just a pretty story.
Laura inhaled deeply.
She wanted to shield Danny from the chaos, but as she looked into Jess's eyes, she found an unexpected mirror of her own fears.
You think you know how to do this better?
I know what it's like to lose people we love, Jess confessed, the fire in her eyes dimming.
Robert and I have a history, yes, but I know how important he is to Danny. And even to you.
A shiver ran through Laura.
Was Jess really trying to reach out? Or was there something deeper behind her vulnerability? Before she could respond, a new vibration interrupted, ringing loudly and cutting through the tension. It was Roberto's phone, still lying on the table.
In a moment of gut-clenching realization, she picked it up, the screen flashing with an unknown number.
What if it's important? Danny's brows furrowed. Mom, just leave it. No, Jess interjected, her gaze honing in on the phone. Maybe this is what we need. An answer.
Ignoring her instincts to drop the phone back down, Laura hesitated, her heart racing anew.
Should she answer? What if it's bad news?
Yet on the cusp of a decision, she felt the weighted air pushing her forward.
She took a deep breath, summoning courage.
Just hold on, she said, before pressing the green button and bringing the device to her ear.
Hello?
There was a moment of silence from the other end. And then, the voice that came through shattered the quiet.
Laura? Her breath caught. It was Robert. What had he returned to say?
With Danny's wide eyes watching closely, she felt the threads of their fragile family starting to unravel once more. And just as she was about to respond, she could see a spark of recognition in Jess's expression.
What was it that connected all their stories? A thread of fate, perhaps?
And could it lead to answers they'd been desperately hoping for? An uncertain future loomed ahead, but one question lingered in the silence: how would this next conversation change everything? Laura clutched the phone tightly, her heart thundering in her chest.
Robert?
She breathed, barely able to contain her swirling emotions. She could sense Danny's anticipation beside her, his tiny fingers gripping her shirt as if seeking reassurance that everything would turn out all right.
Laura, I need to explain, Robert's voice came through, shaky but earnest.
I didn't mean to just leave like that.
The call was urgent. Work-related issues, but listen, I'm sorry. Laura's heart twisted. You just left, Robert. You didn't think to at least say something to Danny?
She glanced down at her son, whose eyes were wide, absorbing every word.
I know it looks bad, but I've been thinking about this meeting for so long. I thought I could jump in and make things right. By abandoning him? How is that making things right?
Laura's voice was firm but filled with pain.
I never wanted to hurt either of you, Robert added, desperation creeping into his tone. I want to be better. I've changed and I need to show you both that I can be the dad you need. Danny tensed, his curiosity and apprehensions cresting, and Laura knelt beside him.
Danny, she said softly, needing to ground them both, we are okay.
Whatever happens here, it's just one piece of our story.
Robert's voice broke through her musings.
Laura, please, can you meet me somewhere? I can explain everything better in person. What do you want me to say? That it will fix everything? She released a shaky breath.
She wanted to believe in the possibility of healing, but fear kept tugging at her coattails, wrapping her in doubt. I swear I'll do my best for you and Danny, he implored, and for a moment, her heart flickered with the memory of warmth that once bonded them.
Had he truly changed?
In that moment, Jess turned to her, urgency flashing in her eyes.
Laura, you have to gauge this for Danny's sake too. He deserves to know his father, but he also needs to see whether this is someone who wants to actually be a part of his life. Laura felt the weight of responsibility push down on her as Danny squeezed her hand lightly. Mom, can we just be together? Can we go back home? He asked softly, his innocent voice pulling her from the heaviness filling the room. Her heart broke at the look in his eyes. Danny, this is difficult, she whispered, her fingers wrapping gently around his tiny fists. We'll figure this out together. Answer him, Jess urged, a supportive fire sparking in her voice. You can do this. Laura took a deep breath, tilting her head back as if searching for guidance. There's no easy answer, Robert. But I'll consider meeting you. Under one condition, you have to be honest and real, not just with me, but with Danny too. Absolutely, Robert replied immediately. I promise I'll be there, ready to do what it takes. Fine, Laura said, trying to mask the nerves curling in her stomach. For him. As she ended the call, it hit her this was a crucial moment, a bridge that would lead them towards something new, uncertain but possible. She turned to Danny, who wore a curious frown, searching her face for answers. What happens now, Mommy? She knelt down again to meet his gaze, her voice steady and filled with warmth. Now we take it one step at a time. Understand that sometimes people can change and it may lead to wonderful things. Danny nodded slowly, his young mind trying to grasp the enormity of the moment. Like a superhero? Exactly, she affirmed, a soft smile spreading across her face. Just like a superhero can learn and grow. A quiet laughter broke through the tension. But we're already superheroes, right? Every day, she whispered, enveloping him in her arms, and for the first time in a while, the burden felt a little lighter. Just then, a sudden rush of movement jolted through the cafe. Robert returned, looking slightly disheveled and more aged than she remembered. But this time, there were no bright smiles or easy laughter. Laura, he started, voice shaking slightly. I'm sorry for everything. She squeezed Danny closer as she felt a mix of dread and hope. This is not just about us anymore. It's about him. Robert stepped closer, searching Danny's eyes, filled with a mixture of longing and regret. I want to do right by you, buddy. I'll earn your trust. Can I still get a robot? Danny asked, a hint of his boyish charm shining through. Robert chuckled softly, a hesitant bond taking shape. If that is what you want, I'll make it happen. Laura watched the bond form, threading through their vulnerable hearts. She knew this was only one meeting, one chance at piecing together the patchwork of their family, but it was a start. As they stood in that cafe, a tapestry of uncertainty and hope weaving through them, Laura felt something shift deep within herself. There, amidst the tangled past, lay the glimmers of a future brightened by honesty and gentle healing. As the conversations flowed with tentative hope, she realized that this moment was a chance not just for Robert and Danny, but for her to reclaim her own spirit, to define who she was beyond the shadows of regret. The world outside buzzed along without noticing them, but here, in this small cafe, a family was taking shaky steps to become whole again. And as she looked at Danny, his sincere smile and eyes filled with hope, she felt a tingle of excitement swirl in her heart. Real love could exist, even amidst mistakes, and together they would forge ahead. Dear friends, if you felt inspired by Laura's journey and the twists and turns of their lives, I urge you to support this channel now. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Your support makes all the difference. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts like yours. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this transformative ending. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible journey of growth and healing. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Together, let us keep spreading positivity and connection.